Welcome to the Prison Pod, a podcast for all people experiencing incarceration. The mission of this podcast is to save lives, restore hope, reduce suffering, and recidivism. Many show ideas come directly from the listeners, so please write the host. Prison Pod, Post Office Box 294, Orono, Maine, 04473. Here is your host, Ms. Valerie.
Hello, and thank you for letting me join you on the Prison Pod today. We have a mystery guest today. It isn't very often that I have a guest I know nothing about, so I'm going to learn right along with you. So I'm going to jump right in. Hello, mystery guest. How are you today?
Excellent. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I definitely appreciate it. So I'll start off with introducing myself to you as well as the rest of the world. My name is David Spivey Jr. I'm the host of the Real Recognize Real podcast. I going with the theme of the podcast. I'm a formerly incarcerated individual. At the age of 17, I was arrested and later convicted for first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, shooting into an occupied dwelling, all with gang enhancement. I was also charged with an attempted murder that was got a not guilty verdict on. Since then, since going to prison in 2010, I decided to change my life. My mother passed away a few months after me going to prison. My brother died the next year, and I just, sat back and told myself, like, dude, your mom and brother's last years on this earth, you spent incarcerated for something that didn't even matter, something that was meaningless. And so I figured if my best thinking got me in prison squatting and coughing, it was time for me to change the way I thought. And so I began the journey of rehabilitation. Started with spirituality first, got a closer relationship with God, and then started just diving into my own self as far as understanding the warped belief system that I had, understanding why I was holding on so tight to these warped beliefs and its illogical value system. And once I was able to figure that out, I was able to start taking away warped beliefs and putting in place those that are more sensible and pro-social. And then I just started working on character defects, as much as I possibly could, as long as I possibly could. In 2018, I got my sentence commuted by then Governor Jerry Brown. Went to parole board the first time, was denied parole 3 years. They felt that the gang ties that I had were still fresh for them to just release me. Went back to before the BPH. 18 months later, 4 months after that date, I was home.
That's amazing. Did the prison system do anything to help you with programming, or was this all done through your own volition?
So that's more of a twofold answer for me. I would say that they did help because they allow the programs to be in the prisons, but you have to want to do it. You have to want to go in there and take it serious. You have to want to go in there and really invest in yourself in order for it to work, because I can put you in a room full of hamburgers, and if you don't want to eat, or you decide that you're not going to eat hamburgers no matter how hungry you are, then you die in that room full of food. So that was kind of the case with me. CDC did provide a lot of programs for me. CDCR, they did provide a lot of programming, self-help program, as well as collegiate programs and vocational classes.
That was the next question I was going to ask you, was how the educational programs were there. If they did, if they focused on basic education, if they did trades, or if they did college.
They had all three. So you had the people that you had the multiple ABE classes, which is like adult basic education. 1, 2, and 3. 3 is the class that you start getting ready for to take your GED. After that, if you decide to, you can go to college. If college is not your thing, you're more of a hands-on type of person. They have the prison that I was at had a lot of vocational classes. Ironwood State Prison. I actually obtained 3 different vocations while there.
It sounds like they had some good programming put in place. I like hearing that because we hear a lot of complaints. While you were in there, when you went into prison, you were known as far as gang activity. Do they have programs to help people be able to get away from there? Because I know that that's not an easy thing sometimes to cut those ties. Do they have a support program or people from the outside who come in to help with that program?
Um, Not that I know of. I know that. So, all right, because I know this is like a lot of people, the burning question for a lot of people. Like, well, if you're in a gang in jail, what do you do? How do you get out? How do you know? And so, I always say there's two ways. One, some guys decide that you know what, I'm gonna go into protective custody, or in California they call it SNY, sensitive needs yards. That I felt that wasn't the route for me because I always believed that was my faith, that was my hope that I would return back to society one day. And so I always just from my own personal, this is nothing against anybody who's taking the other route. I just didn't feel that was the route for me because I felt that there were so many people on that yard that needed help, that needed an example, that needed to see, oh, okay, you can get your life together while incarcerated. You don't have to PC up or anything like that. You can still be right here. You can still, as quote unquote, as normal of a prison life as you can get. I had no issues when I decided to step away, when I decided to focus on me. I'll never forget the day I called a meeting, I called a gang meeting, my last gang meeting that I called. And I just told everybody, I said, look, man, I love you guys. I got it tattooed on me, but I can no longer live for this. I got to start living for myself. I gotta make right this promise that I made to myself and to my family and to my deceased mother and brother. And so I just told them from this point on, man, I'll no longer be. You guys will no longer be able to call upon me in that sense. I said, but if you need something to eat, you need somebody to talk to, I'm always here for you guys, man. I love you guys to death, but now I got to start living for me, man.
And you didn't go back.
I did not.
So now what are you doing today?
So today I am doing a multiple of things. So I just started working in a hospital, so I am a mental health worker, which is very, very fulfilling for me because it allows me to just not think about me and help others. So it's more so of my living amends, continue to live my life upright, continue to do everything that I possibly can to honor the passing of my victim, or I should say the murder of my victim, their family, my family as well, and myself. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Real Recognize Real Podcast. I definitely being on this your podcast today have definitely given me super duper ideas and everything like that. So I'm definitely loving that. Just had a book by Cillian Dunne written about my time in incarceration. It's called Dreams in Incarceration, which is currently on Amazon at the moment. I started my own clothing brand. It's called Stay Great Above Hate. It's geared towards anti-bullying. The brand I dedicate this clothing brand to anybody who's ever been discriminated against, bullied, or any form of oppression. This is for you.
Wow. When do you find time to sleep?
That's what everybody in my life says because I just did a 19-hour shift the other day, and everybody's like, "You're still up?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't. I just God's giving me an extra amount of strength and ability to see it through." So I said I might as well get as much done while I have the opportunity to because I'm not getting younger, and there's gonna come a time when I can only do one thing at a time, literally. So I'm enjoying this season of multitasking.
You'd be surprised what an old dog can do. I can relate to the whole thing about not sleeping because we lost our power this weekend and I was trying to read a book before I did an interview. So I was reading by flashlight and
Oh
then we got the
wow.
power in the night, so I got up at 4 a.m. so I could finish it before I talked to her, because I really, if someone has a book, I like to read it first. So now I'm going to have to read the book about you, um, and your story, so that I can plug it. I plug everybody on social media, so you'll see your stuff out there.
Perfect.
So, how long has it been again that you've been out?
So I've been out 2 years and some change. I got out April 21st. No, yeah. April 21st, 2021.
I'm going to ask you two questions. First of all, what was the first thing you wanted to do when you came home?
Ah, I got to go back. Well, you know what? The first thing I wanted to do is I just wanted to just accept it. I just wanted to, accept that feeling. I just wanted to enjoy that, embrace that. I'll never forget because I was incarcerated as a minor, so I went to jail at 17. I had literally zero experience as an adult in the free world. My only adult in this incarceration, and you don't really get the full experience of being an adult while you're incarcerated. And so I remember I had a boss. She was always talking about hot dogs and beers, or hamburger and a beer, and I was just like, I want to try that. And so I went to the airport, and so I'm at the airport in Sacramento, and I got my little prepaid card with the little $200 gate money on there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get something to eat. So I got me a burger and I got me a beer, and I was like, hey, I'm an adult. I'm an adult now.
So now the next question is, what was the hardest thing about coming home?
Oh my gosh. Everything. Because I always tell people, when I went to jail, they had the Nextel chirp phones. Like that was like one of the big, like, oh, you got a chirp phone, you got ringtones, It's like, oh, okay, I'm cool. And now I come home and I can literally talk to my phone and it talks back, I'm like, wait, whoa, hey, who, I'm looking in the phone, who's in here, just learning how to time management was very, very difficult for me. I had a job 3 days out of prison, and it was a nighttime job. Um, and so I had to kind of get used to. I had to learn how to go to sleep. Turn the phone off, because having a phone was so much freedom in prison. And you don't really get to use you don't get the full benefits of having a cell phone while you're incarcerated. Because you're like using the phone, and you're like, well, did you hear something? Did you hear that? Like, I think they're coming. So now being free, it's like I don't gotta hide my phone. I remember one time that when I was in a transitional home, Hollywood Reentry, one of the staff members came in, and I remember like throwing my phone under the pillow, and the dude just started laughing. He's like, "Hey, bro, you're not in prison anymore. I'm not taking the phone." I'm like, "Hey, man, old habits die hard, man. It's a reflex." So time management, being in really fast crowds of people, because out here everybody's has a mission. Everybody, when you walk out the house, whether you're going to the store or just down the street to the corner to look at something, or you're getting ready for work or school, it's like you're one track minded right then and there. Everybody's like, nobody's like, oh, hey, good morning, top of the morning. Hey, because in prison, that's one of the biggest things. So they come out to say, hey, top of the morning, man. How you doing? How you watched that show last night? Out here, people like, get the hell out of my way. I'm late for work. I remember because I was paroled to Hollywood, and so I had never seen that many people all at one time in a long time. And so I'm just kind of like, taking it in, enjoying it, looking around. I remember the guy told me, hey man, you sure are looking hard as hell. And I was just like, I just like ignored it. I was just like, oh, okay. Now I'm not even looking at you. But so that was one of the things that I had to learn. stop staring at people because I'm still a people watcher to this day. Like I truly enjoy just looking at people and just watching them. Like not on any like creepy, just like wow, I'm free. They're free too. Like I could go say hi to them if I want.
So social skills probably were hard coming home as far as who you could trust, who you can approach.
Yes, most definitely.
And you said you had a job 3 days out, which is amazing. Was that something that was set up before you came home or something that you accomplished once you come out?
No, I was able to accomplish that once I was released from prison. So I was at the transitional house, walking to the front to go get breakfast, and I believe she was the AD, assistant director of the transitional home. And I thank God for her to this day because she just like simply, hey, are you gonna work or are you just gonna? Because there was a lot of guys who have getting out, they got out of prison that were at the transitional home, and all they want to do is smoke cigarettes and sit outside all day. And so she's like, hey, are you gonna work or are you gonna be a part of it? I was like, no, I want to work. I said, but I don't have, and this is how I know, like, that's why I just give all like praises to God because it was only God that allowed this to happen because didn't have an ID, didn't even have my birth certificate, didn't even have my social security card. I had nothing. And she plugged me in with a temp agency, got a job. The guy liked my work ethic. He loved the fact that I was eager to work. And so the first job was that I think I made like $15. And he was like, hey, you don't gotta do that job no more. I got you a much higher paying job. So like 3 days out of prison, I'm making $18.95 with no skill at what I do. I'm like, gotta learn how to do this. And so yeah, that's how that happened.
And have you continued with education since you've been home?
That I have not, but I plan to go back to school. So I because right now I'm deciding whether I'm gonna go become an RN or LTP or I think it's LPT or L. Yeah,
So going to go into nursing.
yes,
And what is it you're currently doing? You're working in mental health.
yes. I'm a mental health worker.
You must get a lot doing that work because um, anyone who's been in prison, I don't want to put a label, but anyone who's been in prison comes home with mental health issues. We all deal with them on a regular basis. So when we learn those skills and tools on how to navigate those situations, it's really rewarding to be able to share those with others and see them also have
Correct.
success.
I agree with you totally, and I think my background is what helps me perform well on my job because I've seen it up close and personal. And mental health and incarceration is really, really horrible. You know, that's one of the worst places that I've actually seen mental health was incarcerated, and so like now in my current position, you know, because I don't say too much about my past at my workplace, but I hint at it when I'm talking to patients. Some of the patients, you don't know what it. I said, believe it or not, I know a lot more than you think. I said, you probably looking at me in this uniform. I wear glasses, and I'm like, you see the glass says, this is not who I've not always been this guy. I understand. Like we had a patient, and her thing, she just always had to get the last word in. She always had to, and I told her, I said, you need to learn how to respond and stop reacting. I said, I used to be just like you. I reacted to any and everything. Sounds like disrespect. Sounds like a slight. Oh, you don't understand? And I was telling her, I said, reaction shows the fact that you're not a critical thinker. Responding shows that you have the ability to critically think this situation all the way out because everything doesn't need a response, and a response doesn't always have to be with a word.
Well, another thing too is we a lot of times become defensive and then we don't think straight.
Exactly.
This is something that I just had a conversation with somebody who's inside and they just had a disciplinary and were sent to seg for a week and it was all the man did this and the man did that. And I said, Yeah, but the man asked you twice to do what he asked you to do, and you didn't do it. So you
Right.
made the choice to go to segregation. Well, it wasn't my choice, but it was.
Definitely was your choice.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's another thing is choices we make in life. So can you give us an example of some of the choices that you made to really make change so that you came home at least healing and healthier?
So one of the biggest choices. When I was in prison, right when I had got found suitable and was told that hey, you're going home. I would remind myself daily, when you get out, everybody who abandoned you are going to pretend like they never abandoned you. They're going to pretend like they just missed you so much, that this is the day that they've been waiting for. And I had to remind myself every day, it's pseudo love. It's not real. They Most of these people are remembering the person that you were. That's who they miss. They did not miss you. You were in the same place for 15 years. You didn't get a letter. You didn't get pictures. You didn't get money. They did not miss you. And I would tell myself that every day, because I understand how easy it is to get caught up, in that fake love. I was caught up in it, and so I just made the choice that I got to ride with those that rolled with me, which was my family. And I had people reach out when I first came home, and they were like, "Oh man, we missed you, cuz," and X, Y, and Z, and I'm just like, I'm done. Love you. I'm done. And so one of the greatest choices I made while out, when everybody's like, "Oh man, I want to see you." I knew for a fact a lot of people don't like to work out. I said, "Okay, meet me at the gym." Nobody showed up. One person. And me and him really became really cool. And I just told him, I said, "Hey man, I know you probably heard a lot of stuff about me. It's true. I'm just not that person anymore." And he's like, "I figured that." He said, "I didn't think you were dumb enough to, you know, overcome a life sentence and then get back out here and start, being a full active gangbanger." I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "Thank you for that." He said, "No, I just wanted to, I wanted to meet you. I wanted to hang out with you." And now we kind of like iron sharpen iron. When I kind of feeling bad, he kind of pours into me. When he's kind of going through something, I pour back into him. So that was the greatest. That was one of my great choices that I made.
That's great to hear. I always like to ask that question. And I also have another question that I like to ask everybody. Are you a reader? Do you like to read?
I do enjoy reading. I have not read that much as I've been out, but I just told myself recently that I got to get back my. I always say my prison discipline. Where I can be able to turn the TV off or put the phone on do not disturb and just read, like just dive into a book. I'll definitely be well, the book I'm reading now is Dreams of Incarceration, which is a great book. So, well, they call that a shameless plug.
Hey, plug away. We're definitely going to be talking about the book. The next question I wanted to ask regarding that is there been a book that you've read that really hit home or said, oh man, I'm going to keep this book forever?
So I had a buddy of mine. He's a former lifer as well. When he paroled, he gave me this book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And when I read that book, I was like, whoa. And I still have it to this day. I told myself, I'm paroling with this book. This book will not there. Hey man, can I get that book? No, 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 no. The other book that I read that really changed, it was transformative in my life, was Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. Um that book right there, I believe that was by W. Clement Stone. And when I read Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, I was like, OMG. I have been doing so many things wrong. And this is why, and it was just wrong because of the type of thinking that I was doing. And so when I read that book in prison, I started applying it in prison. I just started seeing my life change drastically. You know, one of the things that stood out to me in that book the most was that it takes the same amount of energy to think positive as it does to think negative. You know, when you say like, "Oh man, this day can't get any worse," you can easily say, "You know what? The rest of my day is going to be extremely amazing. Things are going to go in my favor. Things, the breaks that I need, I'm going to get them." And they can easily happen. But most people were most human beings are pessimistic, and it's like, and I understand why, because, we all have these life experiences where, well, this has happened to me 5 times in a row, so I know it's got to happen six, instead of saying, yeah, it happened to me 5 times in a row, but today's the day that it stops and it changes.
Another way of looking at that is maybe what we're doing isn't meant to be, and we need to create a new habit.
That is very true.
Because that's one thing that I learned. I had been in school forever. It took me 10 years to get my bachelor's degree. So I figured it's going to take me another 10 for my master's, but it didn't. I did that in a normal amount of time. But in that program, someone said, "How did you get this far and be so disorganized?" Because I was terribly disorganized. I never learned the skills of being a student out of all those years, which is very odd. But one of the books was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I wasn't a huge fan of the book, but afterwards I found that I really got a lot out of it. It made me get rid of the things that no longer served me well and to create some new habits in my life and things that are so simple. My one habit, which I've broken now, but I did it for a long time, was make the bed every day. And
Okay.
after a month, that felt like an accomplishment. It was like, wow, something so simple, but I followed through and did it. And I think that's what we need to start somewhere. We can't do it all in one shot, but it's taking those baby steps and the steps to move forward rather staying in the place that we've always been and feeling stuck.
I totally agree with you. I never read the book, but I do know of that book, and so I've seen a few passages or had a buddy or two talk about that book, and I have heard the just make your bed up. If you can make your bed up as soon as you get up out of bed, you can change your whole entire day because you've accomplished something already. Before you brush your teeth, wash your face, you make your bed up, you've already accomplished something, and you can keep on that trend. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, some of my Buddhist studies also said your attitude. Like I've always been one of those that I always used to say, I hate to wash the dishes. I can't stand washing dishes. I would rather do anything in the world other than wash those dishes. And someone says, you've got a bad attitude. You can't think that way. Why do you have those dirty dishes? Because you have food to put on them. You have a place to cook it. You have hot running water and soap to clean those dishes. You know what? I don't mind washing dishes anymore. I'm thankful for the dirty dishes. Doesn't mean I enjoy it, but I appreciate it.
Right.
So it was different and they get done. So
It's funny that you say that because I don't really like to wash dishes either, but I do very much enjoy doing them because I remember when I was incarcerated, I was like, man, I can't wait to go home and just wash some dishes, you know? And so I remember my little cousin was like, man, you're really clean. I was like, bro, I dreamed of doing stuff like this, sweeping the floor, mopping the floor, cleaning the bathroom because I want it clean, not because I'm living with 30 other guys or because I gotta have my cell looking like it's up and running because somebody gonna come by and I don't want them to say I'm a dirtbag. Like, no, I'm just doing it because I want to do it. And I used to be like, man, I wish I could do dishes. As funny and as odd as that sounds.
well, another level of that too is normality. It feels like you have life back,
Right.
that's part, and you wouldn't think of that as being taken away, that opportunity to do dishes, but that is a part of life. that you don't have and don't experience. So that's a great attitude to have. And of course, I like organization. You wouldn't think so if you could see my desk, but I like nice clean surfaces. Not that I always have them.
I actually have that same color in my house that your wall is. It's pretty similar. I'm sitting here and I was like, if I would have known that, I could have said when a backdrop, it would look like we were like in the same room or something.
Oh, that's funny because I miss not having a screen behind me. I changed my office around. I used to have a brown screen, and there's no back screen that you can put on it. That's my
Oh,
only thing about the studio I'm not thrilled about. But um, when I upload it, it's just our audio anyway. So
okay.
yeah. Well, is there anything else that we should cover before we wrap things up?
I just like to say to anybody listening to this or watching this that have made mistakes, that feel like they're at the lowest point of your life, that you have action. You know, every day that you wake up, you have action at being your best self. You have action at overcoming the mistakes of past, even the mistakes in the present. Never to be defined by your mistakes. Those things happen. Everybody has made mistakes before. Some people mistakes may have been more drastic, some less severe, but we all made them. The most successful people in the world have fallen down 100 times, but the difference between being successful and I call failing at life is the inability to get up or the ability to get up. Never live in your mistakes and just keep going hard as much as you can. You are your biggest investment. Also, follow me on YouTube and join this journey of transformation and come and allow me to inspire and motivate you to be your best self. I'm Real Recognized Real Podcast. Um, but in fact, you can actually type in triple R. That's TRIPPLE space R space podcast. I'm the handsome gentleman smiling on there. Have a suit on. You'll know it's me. Also, I'm very involved with my subscribers. So if you want to DM me, hit me up on Instagram. It's Real Recognized Real underscore podcast. And if you are a fashionable person like myself, you need to be laced and stay great above hate clothing. And you can find us on Instagram. You can DM me. I make orders, custom orders, and everything like that, ready to make. Also, if you have not read any book in your life, you must definitely need to go read Dreams in Incarceration by Cillian Dunne. I'm calling it early. It's the bestseller of this year. It's probably going to be one of the greatest books you've ever read in your life, next to your spiritual guidance books. But I promise you, this is a book you will not, I repeat, you will not want to not be a part of. You don't want to be somewhere and they're talking about it and you don't know what's going on. So go buy the book, folks. It's on Amazon. That's Dreams in Incarceration. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on this podcast. It's been a pleasure.